I know that we've all, at some point, felt like that. We thought that, white people didn't like us or whatever. I'm going to reveal to you the reason why. And the reason why is because you're a monster. You're like, dude, what the hell? Yeah, this man gonna call me a monster. Yeah, you're a monster. Well, if you just generally look up the term monster, you'll find it says it's a magical, an imaginary creature, right? And is usually big and ugly. Now, that plays into who you are because they view you as a monster. But did you know that they have used legal or legal terms in order to create a monster, to make you a monster? That's the reason why you've been reclassified under Walter Plecker from 1912 and 1917 with Walter Plecker, and he was in there for years reclassifying the so-called Negroes. He reclassified them as Negroes and coloreds, and also mulatto. My great grandfather is registered in Florida. I believe it's Liberty County, Florida, as a mulatto. So I'm going to reveal to you how they made you a monster. And so what I'm going to deal with is the legal, historical, and the philosophical implications of what happened due to the forced reclassification of the indigenous Americans. Now, I call them POWs. We are prisoners of war. So, what is the legal definition of monster? You see, I know you like, this dude keep on calling us monsters. You better have something to clear this thing up. So, the legal definition of monster, I'm reading from Black's Law Dictionary, first edition. Monster, a prodigious birth, a human birth or offspring, not having the shape of mankind, which cannot be heir to any land, albeit be brought forth in marriage. That's a monster. So now they have used this framework to change the indigenous people from being indigenous to being monsters. That's the reason why in the Constitution it talks about 3/5 of all other persons, because you're lacking certain aspects that fully make you, in their eyes, human. So we have to deal with that term, prodigious. I know you've heard the word prodigy, and usually that we use it in the sense, in a good sense, from the perspective of being unique and uh, dynamic. But we really have to look up this term, prodigious, in order to fully understand what it is that we're dealing with here. When I go to look up the definition of prodigious birth, remember the word prodigious? We went through the word monster, we found the word prodigious because it talks about a prodigious birth. So we looked up prodigious birth, and it has the same definition as monster. It says a human birth or offspring not having the shape of mankind, which cannot be heir to any land, albeit be brought forth in marriage. Under English common law, particularly as articulated by Sir Edward Coke. A prodigious birth referred to a child born with such severe physical abnormalities that they were deemed not fully human in a legal sense. Says such individuals were denied inheritance rights because they were seen as unnatural deviations from the human form. Now, this doctrine established a precedent, all right? Says a legal recognition as a human being, and by extension, an heir was not based solely on biological birth, but also on conformity to socially and legally defined norms. If an individual did not fit these norms, they were excluded from inheritance despite being born to legally recognized parents. All I'm doing with this portion here is establishing that they set a precedent to disinherit. There's a precedent that was established that allowed them to disinherit individuals based on prodigious birth because they changed their humanity. They were changed. A human birth or offspring not having the shape of mankind. What is the shape of mankind? Every man has a name, and that name is associated with the land, and that land is associated with a flag. And all three of those are the same. That's why the Chinese speak Chinese over in China with the Chinese flag. There is no black land, no colored land, no Negro land, no African American land. They use this term to snatch your inheritance and then treat you like little kids, minors, minorities. This should be revelation to you because this is something you can look up for yourself. But I'm going to further, I'm going to stop there. I want to make sure that you get this because see, this is a 25-year work that I'm revealing to you. I wish that I could have revealed it to you earlier. I attempted, but those in power didn't feel that you all needed to hear this message. So I'm just fulfilling, my duty. So I feel so blessed to be chosen. I mean, not just called. He called me 25 years ago. Yeah, he called me 25 years ago and chose me. So I might not be your favorite. I might not be, the handsomest, even though I'm handsome. I might not be the most popular, but I come from among you. I come from you. I am you. And these people been running amok, have dug a ditch round about you so that you thought that you would never get out. Look at God. So again, now they're establishing a legal precedent, right, to be able to disinherit you. And then they move forward this forced reclassification of indigenous Americans as legal monstrosities. A monstrosity, something, especially a building that is very large and is considered unsightly. That's the first definition. Then the second definition, something that is outrageously or offensively wrong. Isn't that how you feel when you thought that white people didn't like you, like they were just offended by you? because you're a monster. So they have made you an imaginary creature. Yes. And they've also done it legally in a way to be able to disinherit you. So the legal principles underlying prodigious birth were functionally repurposed in the racial classification laws of colonial and early American legal systems. Indigenous Americans, particularly those taken as prisoners of war, those Indian wars, were often reclassified as Negro or colored, also mulatto. This legal maneuver served a similar purpose. It served the same purpose as the prodigious birth, that reclassification, because now they're moving you from who you are to who they want you to be. Now you're a prodigy. By reclassifying indigenous people as Negro or colored, colonial authorities ensured that they could not reclaim ancestral lands under treaties and recognize indigenous sovereignty. Stripping of legal personhood. Just as a prodigious birth rendered an individual legally incapable of inheriting land, racial reclassification rendered indigenous people legally incapable of claiming their rightful status within their nations. Enforced statelessness. In many cases, reclassified individuals were left in a legal limbo, neither fully recognized as indigenous nor granted the full rights of citizens under American law. So the reclassification of the indigenous people to Negro, blacks, colored, now African American was no accident. Denied your rights, denied your inheritance rights. It stripped you of your personhood or your legal status, your legal personhood, and enforced your statelessness. So again, like I said, these legal mechanisms were not accidental. They were intentionally crafted to justify land seizure, economic exploitation, and social subjugation. Or maybe you don't know about the Christian black codes and Jim Crow laws that were initiated or instituted around the time of Reconstruction. When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, his then vice president stepped up and they did away with that 40 acres and a mule, and they took away military presence that give so-called Negroes and colors at that time any authority. They use racial reclassification as a tool of dispossession. I'm sure you've heard the term, or maybe you haven't heard the term, of paper genocide. But this paper genocide erased indigenous identity, erased your identity, and made you prodigy or a prodigious birth, which legally is a monster. That's the reason why you hear when Hillary Clinton was talking about bringing them to heel, those little monsters. Oh, and maybe I don't know if she said monster, but whatever it is, she had to bring it to heel. And when Biden said it don't matter how they got the way they are, we got to protect his mother and his wife, from them little monsters that they created. They created these little monsters. All right, so paper genocide, how they erase their identity. All right, so the term paper genocide refers to the deliberate reclassification of indigenous people on legal documents to erase their official identity. This practice was widely employed in the United States, particularly through the 1830 Indian Removal Act, which allowed the forced relocation of indigenous tribes. But many individuals who resisted removal were reclassified as Negro or colored to strip them of their legal tribal affiliation. The Dawes Rolls and the 5 civilized tribes. Indigenous people who were not recorded on official tribal rolls were often reclassified as freedmen or colored, preventing them from inheriting land under the Dawes Act. The whole thing is just to disinherit you. This is what it's all about, is your disinheritance. But it's the time of your inheritance. The time of your inheritance is now. And that's the reason why you got all these clowns running around here trying to make you act a fool. They trying to make you act out as those little monsters. So they can, hey, this is why we need these programs. This is the reason you unleash the monsters. That's what they're telling Trump. No, but what Trump is doing is restoring so that you won't be considered a monster. He's restoring you into the family of humanity, amongst the family of nations, bringing you back into the fold, into the family of nations. Not as Negro, Black, or colored. You have to have your indigenous identity. And that's what's going on. That's where we at right now. I'm so thankful to God, praise Jehovah, that I'm able to reveal this to you at this time, that I can articulate this in such a manner. But this is what happened to you. You're a monster. Right now, in your current state, I don't care how much money you have, unless you've claimed your status, your indigenous status, you're a monster. And tell the truth, you're still a monster. Sitting up there, you looking on your people, knowing what's been done. And you haven't tried in all the 54 years I've been here, seen anybody reach out, or it's always grassroots. Look, I digress. What they're doing was legal alchemy. And I'm a Mason. What they've done is purely Masonic. I'm not careful to speak. I'm not careful to speak, because then that's where that respected persons come in. And a lot of times when you allow respected person to come in, you allow for some foolishness or some faultiness or fraud. You will let some underhanded dealings go by. You let it slide, you let it slip. And then before you know it, you're participating in the slipping and sliding. And so that's what I represent, the guy that don't slip and slide. The guy that won't take the bribe. The guy that don't have a price. Cut me in or cut it out. That doesn't apply to me. It's no one's ever offered that to me. It, probably because how I demonstrate. Not underhanded. And I care about people. I have compassion. And that's for all people. Tell the truth. I don't want any person hurt. I have a love for all people. But the thing is that I'm my people first. So I got to love you. I got to love other people through my people first. I believe it's a misinterpretation when people look at the scripture and they're talking about when it deals with loving your enemy, right? To love your enemy before you love yourself, that's self-hate. And that's not godly. So I think we need to really reevaluate that and look at that from a different perspective. See, I love my enemy enough to not put myself in a position to allow him to trick his life off or her life off. I mean, self-preservation is is paramount, right? Isn't that number one? Self-preservation. So you have to love, we have to look at love from a different perspective. But that's neither here nor there.